I say this to President Trump: burn the boats. There's no retreat, right? The conquistador Cortez said when he got ashore and they had to face the indigenous people, they burned the boats because that way there was no retreat. It was either win at all costs or die. I'm in the burn the boats mode, and I hope President Trump recognizes that if he's not in the burn the boats mode, that they will never leave him alone. They will now just go for his family, and they will always come for all of us, conservatives, Christians. This is the last place left, and they want to institutionalize things like Islam. Islam can kiss my ass, and I'll say that. I think I'm thrilled when I see people burn the Quran. It's free speech, and you're welcome to it. If you want to burn my Bible, burn my Bible. It's your free speech. Go for it. I don't appreciate it. I wish you would, but go for it. I don't think we should have hate speech laws. I don't think we should have you can't burn this flag, can't burn that. I think free speech and the freedom to protest and demonstrate should be absolute. I don't like it when people burn the American flag. I don't like it when somebody calls somebody a racial slur. I don't like it when somebody is a racist. I don't like it when somebody's a bigot. I don't like any of those things. I have no appreciation for it whatsoever. But I recognize the slippery slope that we get on.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
If you're looking to invest in physical precious metals or convert your 401k to a precious metals backed IRA, please consider making your investment with our trusted partner, Metal Stacks. Their prices regularly beat the big sites and they have no credit card fees or minimums. Shipping is free for orders over $500. Just visit metalstacks.com/dwalker or get there from our website, freedomstate.us. If you're interested in the IRA conversion, drop me a message at Danielle at freedomstate.us and I can get you connected with their white glove service. Welcome to the State of Freedom, everybody. It is Thursday, September 11th, and it's a few minutes after 10 a.m. I'm Danielle Walker, and my friend and co-host Chris Alexander is out at a meeting this morning related to congressional redistricting, so we will miss him and his legal expertise, but today we had to divide and conquer. He should be back in the saddle on Tuesday, but we are coming to you live on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. Wherever you're watching, give us a like, a thumbs up, a share, a retweet. It helps us out, and give us a Rumble rant if you're on Rumble. Comment in the chat. We want to hear from you. Well, joining us today is Treniss Evans. He is a man, and let me bring him forward. He is a man who is a patriot through and through, and he's a J6er turned fearless legal advocate and founder of Condemned USA, a grassroots legal advocacy organization dedicated to supporting J6 defendants. The group assisted over 400 defendants. He's a filmmaker, the best-selling author of the book Call It Insurrection, and now serves as Chief Operating Officer of the American Rights Alliance, a group that was launched with support from Don Jr., focusing on pardon campaigns and strategic legal battles against political lawfare. One of the people they're representing right now is Tina Peters, and as many of you may know, today is Tina's 70th birthday. So we wanted to dedicate this show to honoring her, to celebrating her bravery and bringing voice to her case. Welcome to the show, Treniss.
Thanks so much for having me, Danielle. You mentioned Tina, and that certainly warms my heart. I appreciate that. I will tell you that I spoke with Tina last night for about 20 minutes last night, which we speak pretty regularly. And I will just tell you this, I'm going to say it here. Stay tuned for some very big movement on Tina. We are going to achieve our mission, and Tina Peters will be free of that prison.
Amen. And thank you for that work. And Treniss, before we get into any more on Tina and some of the other topics we wanted to cover, let me read the scripture of the day. It is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 14 to 18. And we do this to set the tone because otherwise we might go off the rails. Some of the topics we cover are so tough. So 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 14 through 18, and it says, "We appeal to you, dear brothers and sisters, to instruct those who are not in their place of battle. Be skilled at gently encouraging those who feel themselves inadequate. Be faithful to stand your ground. Help the weak to stand again. Be quick to demonstrate your patience with everyone. Resist revenge, and make sure that no one pays back evil in the place of evil, but always pursue doing what is beautiful to one another and to the unbelievers. Let joy be your continual feast. Make your life a prayer. And in the midst of everything, be always giving thanks, for this is God's perfect plan for you in Christ Jesus." And yesterday's assassination of Charlie Kirk is just a horrific reminder that we're still very much at war, and our enemy's not human but spiritual. And this is a time where we have to draw closer to the Lord for comfort, for strength, for wisdom and instruction on where to be standing in the battle. But we also need to draw closer to one another, to encourage one another, help each other, just as soldiers do, to get back to our spiritual battle stations and do the work the Lord specifically instructed and purposed for us to do. It's going to take all of us. No one gets to sit on the sidelines. And as I think of the heartbreaking and shocking events we've witnessed over the last few days, I'm reminded of the prayer that the apostles prayed after the first wrongful arrest of Peter and John. And Treniss, I think you're a great example of this. It says, "So let me pray." So let me pray this over all of us. It's from Acts chapter 4, verses 29 through 30. And it says, "So now, Lord, listen to their threats to harm us. Empower us as your servants to speak the word of God freely and courageously. Stretch out your hand of power through us to heal and to move in signs and wonders by the name of your holy Son, Jesus." And the passage goes on in verse 31 to say, "At that moment, the earth shook beneath them, causing the building they were in to tremble. Each one of them was filled with the Holy Spirit, and they proclaimed the word of God with unrestrained boldness." So in the same way, may the Lord fill us all with unrestrained boldness that we so desperately need to accomplish his purposes in the earth. Treniss, thank you for joining us. I know you're a man of unrestrained boldness. I just am so appreciative of your fight. I think you're just an example and a fighter who has been fighting at this and has won a lot of battles.
We talked before the show, Danielle. We had a couple words here for a few minutes. I'm going to tell you that I'm upset. You mentioned that early in the program here. It was not only pre-show, like many of us are. Some of you are going to pray. I'm going to pray as well. Some of you are going to be angry. I'm going to be angry as well. Some of you are going to lash out. I'm going to lash out as well. "Vengeance is mine," said the Lord. So he said the same about the kingdom of heaven. But he shares that, and I think he can find it in his heart to share a little bit just of that with me. I want to make it very, very clear. I hope you share this. I hope Antifa reads this. I hope all of the lunatic nut jobs that operate as leftist foot soldiers listen to me loud and clear. We are not a violent operation. We are not a violent people. We are not here for violence. We are here for peace. We're here for civil discourse. We are here for discussion. We're here to vote and resolve our issues in these United States as intended by the founding fathers. But if you son of a bitches want to take this somewhere else, you want to take it to the streets and you want fisticuffs and you want rifles and you want that kind of shit, I want to make it very clear the other side's happy to oblige, because not all of us are Sunday school teachers. Not all of us are going to stand by while you take on these actions and not return fire. And I don't mean necessarily gunfire, just be clear. But you're going to keep pushing and you're going to awaken something. We far outnumber you. You're not equipped, you're not trained, and you're nowhere near ready for what you're going to awaken in this country if you turn this kinetic. So the answer to that is to stop. Simply stop. I'm not more than happy not to start.
Yeah.
But there's those of us that see it, our role, more like that. That's a crusade Christian, and we're happy to oblige.
Yeah.
So don't awaken those parts of America. Don't bring forth that ugliness, that we can do this peacefully. We can resolve these things. But we're not going to do it in corrupt courts. where judges who operate as arbiters of ideology, not arbiters of the law, take a role in the matter. We're not going to do it corrupt politicians. We're not going to do it with an evil ideology fomented in this country and cemented in the minds of those who have been victims of a narrative. We, the people, means all of us. It doesn't mean we, the conservatives. It doesn't mean we, the Christians. It does not mean we, the people that listen to this podcast or support Republicans or what have you. We, the people, sorry, I'm hot in this jacket, taking it off. Anyway, be very clear. But yeah, I don't know what's going on in my house, but it's fine. I'm going to be very clear about what I'm saying. I'm not looking for a fight. I'm looking for resolution. I'm looking for solution. I'm looking to have a country where we talk these things out. I'm looking. But Charlie Kirk was a lot more willing to talk to you than I am. Charlie Kirk put up with your crap and listened to the nonsense and sat there and tried to debate these things with you and help you see reason. There's many of us that don't live in that realm. Charlie Kirk was a better human being than so many of us. Charlie Kirk was the kind of guy that you wanted to be dealing with. Don't find the evil of men and drag that out of them. Men don't want to be there. We're Christians. We're peaceful. We love this country and we want to resolve it. But those of you that intend to destroy the United States of America, the Susan Rosenbergs, right? Those people that come from the Weather Underground ideology, and now they operate groups like BLM, which is a known terrorist organization. I'm going to say it. BLM is a terrorist organization, right? You come from the likes and you're led by those of the Weather Underground. Susan Rosenberg bombed the U.S. Senate Hart Building back in, many, many years ago. And she was pardoned after 16 years of a 58-year sentence. She bombed the United States Capitol. And she's now the leader of BLM. Bill Ayers, Hillary Clinton's one of her mentors, founder of Weather Underground, Michigan or Minneapolis or wherever the hell that was. Bella Dodd, the woman that bragged about putting 1,000 communists in the New York State school system over time. They knew that they couldn't take us with an outward war. So they sent people here to subvert. They sent people into these United States. They sent them here to have a radical communist ideology to undermine the United States from within. It's been their goal for decades, and they're working on it, and they made hell of a amount of progress. And under the banner of Democrats now operates communist, socialist, Marxist, Maoist, BLM, Antifa, etc. And I'm telling you, I know that I see that this is a Christian-minded program, and I appreciate the words of Danielle and reminding us of our faith. But you're going to remind us that men are men, and we can resolve these matters other ways if you choose to keep this up. We, the people, can do this peacefully, but you're going to have to stop pressing in anti-American ideology. The reason the United States of America has lasted some 250 years, which is a lot longer than most civilizations. You can go back 10,000 years. I don't care if we go to the Ottoman Empire, we can look at Caesar, we can look at all throughout history. You're not going to be the Praetorian Guard. You're not going to be what destroys this country, because we will stomp you out so fast, it will be a joke. You don't know what you're unearthing here. And I'm asking you to stop, because we don't want that. I would sit down and have that conversation with you that Charlie was willing to have. But I'm also not going to put up with your crap. I'm sick and I'm hurting because of what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday. My wife is over here asking me about my life insurance policy last night because I'm a conservative speaker. I've threatened nobody. I've simply said that I won't be attacked. That won't happen. And if you start this, you're not going to be able to stop what you unleash. Have you not seen what a civil war looks like? Have you not seen revolution? Those of you that run around espousing battle cries of that kind of ideology have obviously never seen a battlefield. You've obviously never lost a father to a war. You don't get it. You don't understand what you're asking for from the American people. And I think you must have forgotten that not all of us have become soy boy latte sipping nut jobs that walk around in skinny jeans and man buns.
Amen.
There's a whole hell of a lot of us that worked for the government. They trained with the government. They were military, or they just grew up hunting and fishing. We didn't grow up at Starbucks drinking soy lattes at the skate park. You got the wrong guys. Stop picking a fight that you're not going to win. Sure, you can shoot me, but 9 more will arise in my place. And you can shoot Charlie Kirk, and dozens will come. You just made a martyr. You just absolutely upended your situation by creating people all across this country. You motivated Christians to get out and vote. You motivated college students to do more than ever before. You didn't scare anyone off the campuses. Watch what happens from this point forward. I've already talked to people in Charlie's camp and others. They intend to ramp this up. They're going to go harder and they're going to go bigger. Let's have more security. And the next one of you that gets on a rooftop is going to get picked off.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. We shouldn't live in a time. If your ideas are so great, I challenge you this, then they should be able to just be shared in the public square. If your ideas are so great, they shouldn't be shuttered from social media. If your ideas are so great, the mainstream media shouldn't have to lie. Let the people decide which ideology they want to subscribe to, which America fits their vision, which one that they want to raise their children in. It's not your America. The lie about Trump's a fascist, the lie that we're white supremacists at the United States Capitol. It's all bullshit. It's always been bullshit, and the people know it's bullshit. Problem is, you used to have control of the media. You used to have control of all the social media platforms, but those days are ending. And your cover is blown. You're not going to be able to hide, and we're going to hold you accountable. And Trump's going to send the guard into your cities. And those of you that do these things, you're going to be held very accountable for your actions. And I hope that it doesn't come to a place for your sake that the people end up being the ones to hold you accountable for your actions. Because I don't know if you've ever seen what that looks like in actual conflict, but you have no idea what you're asking for. I welcome the Antifa, BLM, and the protesters that show up when I speak. I welcome those people. Good for you. Guess what? The minute someone told you that you couldn't show up with a picket sign and yell at me and say what you think of me, I would actually fight for your rights to do it because I believe in the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and understand the necessity of First Amendment rights. You didn't silence a United States citizen. You didn't silence a Christian. You didn't silence a conservative voice. You amplified it. Charlie Kirk's message is now 100 times what it ever could have been. Charlie Kirk is now, the flags are lowered across the country.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk is now internationally recognized. Charlie Kirk is now a martyr. And you who thought you would silence a voice, have amplified the voice. So kill any one of us that you want. Do it. Go right ahead until it doesn't work for you. But that's the way it's going to be. For every one of us you silence, you will activate and further remove your movement. Your key to getting somewhere with your movement is to have people convinced that you can have an open discourse like Charlie tried to have, and that there can be conversation, and that you have a winning argument after people listen and decide for themselves. Fascism is shutting down the other side of the argument. Fascism is destroying free speech. Fascism is not allowing people the opportunity to hear and to make an informed decision. And you run around utilizing communist, Maoist, Marxist tactics to accuse the other side of what you are doing, accuse the other side of what you are doing, so that you can create confusion. We all have seen the playbook. I don't care if you're the Bella Dodd or the Susan Rosenberg or the Bill Ayers. You're all pieces of shit. You've always been pieces of shit. And you're always going to be a piece of shit. And that's the way it is. And I'm sorry to bring the language to your show,
It's okay,
Danielle, but I'm angry.
Yeah.
So I'd rather let it out here. And I'm happy to show up and have a conversation. I'll meet you in the town square. We can have any conversation you want. You espouse your ideology, I'll espouse mine, and let's let the people decide who's right.
Yeah. Well, you have
You want to throw fists? I'll throw fists with you. You want to do something else? I'm happy to do it. I didn't buy this for myself. Somebody sent it to me. I'm going to fight for your right to say what you want to say. I'm going to fight for your right to believe how you want to believe, and I'm going to fight for your right to vote how you want to vote. But the minute you bring violence into the equation, I'm going to knock your fucking block off.
Yeah. We have every right to be angry. We have absolutely every right to be angry. And you talk about the Marxists and the Maoists and the socialists and the communists that have infiltrated every aspect of our society. Would you talk for a minute about the judges, Treniss? I mean, how do we get rid of these judges? I know Mike Davis is doing some work over at Article 3 Project exposing some stuff. I just don't know what our path forward for getting rid of these criminals who are sitting in black robes is.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So people, we often hear these discussions about that the courts are a captured operation, right? That you have nothing more than ideologues under a robe that are providing a juror is acting as a jurist over and espousing their ideology over it rather than actually holding court, right? We see now that people don't even have judicial experience. They're not even lawyers. They're being appointed to the bench. It's not to say that
They're
somebody
not
can't
even
have a reason.
American, it seems.
Well, not only that, but they look. So I'll give you Tanya Chutkin. We all have heard this name. She was having Donald Trump's trial in Washington, D.C. She was advancing things in the midst of an election, which is very inconsistent with how we handle presidential elections. Okay, so we'll give her that. Let's just say give her a pass that she felt it was a necessity for anyone to be held accountable. Okay, let's have it that way. Fine, I'll give you that. Let's say this. So the Tanya Chutkin issue. Tanya Chutkin is the granddaughter of one Frank Hill. Mr. Frank Hill was a communist leader in Jamaica. He was credited with being that communist leader. He self-proclaimed leadership of communists and starting the communist movement in Jamaica. After the fall of the economy and the ruination of the Jamaican economy, where they fell into quite a dark time, the ire of the people espoused that Mr. Frank Hill was responsible for that once they fell, right? Sounds great in the beginning because the people that don't work and don't do anything are going to get the same thing that all the people that work their ass off and do something get. Sounds great until the people that work their ass off go, well, why am I working my ass off? And nobody's working. And then everything plummets. That's the reality of this, right? So let me give you the next side of the situation here. You remember the Alaska State Senator, Ted Stevens? Ted Stevens was in office, I don't know what it was, 30 years or something, a bunch of terms. I think he should be term limits, and I think we shouldn't have people in office all these years. I think it's problematic. If we recognize that a president would have too much power, obviously we should say the same for Congress, but they're never going to vote themselves into term limits. We all know that. I mean, these people have been there 20, 30 years and have accomplished basically nothing other than the undermining and destruction of the United States of America. Dabney Friedrich is a judge in D.C. The Ted Stevens issue, what's Dabney Friedrich have to do with that? Nothing, except that her husband, Michael Friedrich, was the individual that falsely accused and knew that it was a falsehood, the so-called campaign finance crimes that they were bringing against Alaska State Senator Ted Stevens. He knew it was a fraud on the court, and he brought it in front of Judge Emmett Sullivan, who also knew it was a fraud on the court. They knew for a very long time that the information was fraudulent, no such crime occurred, and they had to drop this, but they dropped it only weeks before the election, and it was enough to destroy Ted Stevens and cost the Senate seat. This is what the left does. Emmett Sullivan, that same judge, was the same judge that knew that the crap that they were bringing against Michael Flynn was absolute BS, right? General Michael Flynn, the case they brought against him, they knew it was crap. Sullivan ended up having to apologize to Michael Flynn for his actions, for what he did to try and continue that prosecution and the persecution, I should say, of General Michael Flynn. Dabney Friedrich, the husband of Michael Friedrich, brought the false charges. Then we take you to Jocelyn Ballantine. Jocelyn Ballantine, head of the Capitol Siege Unit for January 6th. She was rewarded for her impropriety and the fraud that she brought on the court and the violation of the rules of professional conduct that she brought forth for the court that were again, violation of the rules of professional conduct. They're much stricter for the prosecutor than they are for defense counsel because that person has the ability to put someone in prison. Yeah. So what Jocelyn Ballantine did, she carried the dirty dossier and the lies about Michael Flynn to Emmett Sullivan. Again, here we are with Emmett Sullivan, right? Do you think this is happenstance that these same corrupt actors do this over and over and over again. Judge Amit Mehta, another absolute stark raving mad leftist activist under the robe. We can go on to stories with him. I can give you Beryl Howe. Beryl Howe was the chief judge in DC during the time that the January 6th prosecutions began. Beryl Howe was also chastised by the appellate court for providing information to House committees from the judiciary that was sealed, that was not supposed to be that. Now, this is the DC appellate court. This isn't me saying it. The DC appellate court said that Beryl Howe needed a lesson in how our three equal branches of government, co-equal branches of government, operate, and that one doesn't provide information to the other at the legislative branch from sealed court record. So, but it's okay because Beryl Howe was a staffer for a Democrat for many years before she was appointed as judge. These are the frauds, the absolute lunatics, the activists under the robe that operate in Washington, D.C. And it's not limited to D.C., it's just where the center, if you will, of the corruption exists.
Yeah.
It's where they know that conservatives will be tried and punished and convicted, and they will use heavy-handed justice and even go above the sentencing guidelines and go after people, while liberals and Democrats will be relieved of all responsibility. They'll be called. I'll point you to two events. Let's make some comparisons here. January 20th, 2017. Do you remember what Washington, D.C. looked like? Remember what Washington, D.C. looked like when Donald Trump was set to be inaugurated on January 20th, 2017. J20 2017 or J20 any of the presidential election years following the election is the only concrete date in the Constitution that something must happen. It has to happen at noon on January 20th. That's the way it is. End of story, right? It happens January 20th in the afternoon. And that's how it happens. It's the only concrete date. January is the reading of the Electoral College vote, but the Democrats out of one side of their mouth will tell you it's nothing more than a ceremonial process. But whenever a Republican wins, they object every time and they want to utilize the process. The problem is they don't even have enough validation to look at. But after 2020, we, the people, knew there was enough problem, and you had senators and congressmen alike that were going to object and do something. But then, of course, we had that rat puke Mike Pence, disgusting individual that, he'll never win dog catcher again. So nobody cares what Mike Pence thinks, right? He is the modern day oh gosh, I've drawn a loss to the name. I'll come with it in a second. He is a disgusting individual, but I'll get back to that. Benedict Arnold, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little off kilter today, and I apologize for the language, but no, actually, I really don't. It's called for. It's warranted at this point. Yeah. So I could use better language, but the language I've used today is warranted in the wake of what happened to Charlie Kirk, in the wake of what's happened in our country. And it's time to get real, and it's time to get serious, and it's time to draw the lines and say, stop. I'm telling you to stop. Moving on. So I was telling you about these judges, right? Beryl Howe. I wrote impeachment articles for Beryl Howe. I took them to the House Judiciary Committee. Do you know what our so-called fearless Republicans and conservative leaders had to say when I took them there? They said, oh, well, we don't have the votes. I said, why not? They said, well, we got Ken Buck and Daryl Issa and these other guys, and, they're just not going to do it. And I said, great. By the way, Chip Roy agreed to carry those articles of impeachment, and he never did. I don't know. Where are you, Chip? I mean, you're not going to be Attorney General. Get over that. That's not happening, Chip. Anyway, you're lucky that you managed to stay in Congress this long because I think you're a fraud, but that's the way it is. I remember when Chip Roy's words, quote, MAGA fuckers is what he called us, right?
Wow.
So make America great again. That was a quote from Chip Roy, not my words. Those are his. So I don't think I have to apologize with the United States Congress because you used the word. I think I can quote him. So moving forward, let's get into some more reality about where we are in this country. I've got federal judges that say that law enforcement needs a warrant to arrest an illegal alien.
Right.
They don't. So when did law enforcement begin needing a warrant to make an arrest? You need a warrant to search a home. You need a warrant to do this. You need a warrant to do many things. You don't need a warrant to make an arrest out on the street. If I walk over and throw a rock through a window, I'm getting arrested. Yeah. If I'm speeding at 25 miles over the speed limit through a school zone and drinking a beer, I'm going to get arrested. They don't need a warrant. But the same ridiculous judge in the Eastern District of California that wouldn't let Benjamin Martin out after he got a pardon, she refused to sign it. She was able to do a whole trial. She was able to do everything else, and she refused to recognize that the plenary powers that were provided to the United States Executive Authority Office, i.e., the presidential Oval Office authorities, under pardon powers are absolute and unquestionable, right? This judge would not let Ben Martin out of prison in California. She finally recuses herself, and the chief district judge has to immediately step in and recuse him or release him within hours because she waited weeks, because she meant to slow down and bludgeon the American people. She slowed down the authority of the executive office and refused to recognize it. This judge that thinks she's above it, if she wants to do that, she needs to go register and be run for president if she wants that kind of authority, but she doesn't have it as a federal judge. So that same judge that refused that Ben Martin out said that law enforcement had to have a warrant when making arrests for ICE, and she's also the same judge that is allowing a case to go on against Shayna Gaviola, a woman you've never heard of.
Right.
Why am I going to tell you about Shayna Gaviola? The American Rights Alliance represents Shayna Gaviola. Shayna Gaviola is a woman who has been persecuted since 2021 by the Biden administration. And what was her crime? Shayna Gaviola had a son that wasn't doing so hot in school, that there were some things going on at home with and other issues that I can't get into. I'm not going to disclose the juvenile record, but there's some significant issues. And Shayna Gaviola was trying to fight for her son, fight for his safety, fight to protect him from a radical school system in California. This is the kind of school system, by the way. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I will tell you the policies in a California school. In a California school, you can be radically transgendered, right? They can transgender you or change your gender in their mind by, let's say this, your 14-year-old or 12-year-old son goes to school. They come home one day, something's wrong. You go to the school says, well, your son's working. We're going to transition your child or your daughter, right?
Yeah.
So they say, we're going to transition your child. Okay. Without the consent of the parent. We're not going to, and they're going to start medication. They're going to start counseling, then medication, and ultimately surgery. And it doesn't matter if you, as a parent, consent. Now, your religious liberties and parental rights have been destroyed. Right here, at least the parental rights. I don't know where you are. You don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be anything. That's up to you. That's a bridge between you and God. You choose to embrace it or not. I can't force you across it. I can tell you it's there. I can tell you if I've enjoyed the crossing of the bridge, and I hope you do too. But if you choose not to, that's not, that's on you. All right. I'll advocate for you too. Just like the other stuff. I can advocate, but I can't make you. So here we are now. So you have Shayna Gaviola is facing prison time in a holdover prosecution that's happened as a result of what? As a result of the Biden administration saying that when she moved her son out of the California school system and sent him to Missouri to a Christian school, that she was violating California law and federal law, and she was innocent. Listen to this. This is child human trafficking. This is the kind of child human trafficking that the Biden administration went after. They're pursuing a mother. And the prosecutor, the AUSA, the Assistant United States Attorney, his name is Michael Tierney. Can't make it up, right?
You cannot make that up.
Tierney. But let me give you some facts about Mr. Tierney that you might need to know. According to Miss Gaviola and the witnesses, I wasn't there, but I certainly have read Miss Gaviola's statement and spoken to her about it and spoken to the witnesses that were present. Mr. Tierney shows up drunk at a restaurant where she's in the lounge having some appetizers and a glass of wine with her friends and leaving to go back home, and approaches her while he's the AUSA on her case and tries to hit on her and stands over the back of her chair in a threatening or authoritative manner. When she's uncomfortable and goes to the restroom, retreats to the restroom to escape the Assistant United States Attorney prosecuting her with child trafficking for taking her own son from the California radical school system where a child can be indoctrinated and gender transitioned as they believe, which is absolute nonsense, right? I'm not a unicorn just because I did this, it's absurd. I can't pluck out my eye and put on a patch and become a pirate and give myself a peg leg. Doesn't make me a pirate. And I'm not going to allow my child to pluck out their eye, cut off their leg, and install a peg leg and run around calling themselves a pirate at 14 years old, right? That's not going to happen. So here's where we are. Gaviola is being prosecuted. We have a new U.S. attorney out there. Hopefully he courageously gets involved, removes Tierney. But it gets worse. So she retreated to the bathroom, right? Upon retreat to the bathroom, she comes out of the restroom only to find AUSA Michael Tierney there to confront her with the agent, the FBI agent that raided her home on the phone. and says, "Hey, Miss Gaviola or Shane, guess who I have on the phone? Agent Snow's on the phone." What kind of intimidation, third world crap is this going on in the United States? It gets better from here. She then goes outside the restaurant, attempting to leave the restaurant, fleeing the scene where an AUSA is doing this. Outside the restaurant, he approaches her again, this attorney, Michael Tierney, right? The AUSA, and says, "Hey, here, phone's for you." Shoves a phone in her face. She's not knowing what to do. She takes the phone and says, "It's your attorney." She puts Mr. Capozzi on the phone, the attorney, who then has a conversation with her while over the assistant United States attorney's phone at a restaurant at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. This all transpires around 9:30 to 10 o'clock. The American Rights Alliance is representing this case. You want to know why I'm angry? I shouldn't curse, I get it. But today I'm extremely angry. I'm not here as a representative of American Rights Alliance today. I'm here as an angry and upset citizen and a conservative voice that has seen more than enough, that my belly's full and my heart is sad and I'm angry in my head, and I've had enough of your crap. I've had enough of the Democrat violence. I've had enough of the two-tiered system of justice. I've had enough of the lies. I've had enough of the obfuscation. I've had enough of the narrative of the media. And we the people, you just keep poking that bear. See how it works out for you. Donald Trump was a bear you shouldn't have poked. That's not going to work out well for you. Hopefully he solves it before the American people come to his rescue and help him solve it. Here's where we the people are today. We have Tina Peters locked up in prison, a 69-year-old Gold Star mother who turned 70 years old today, sitting in a prison, in a Colorado prison, because a corrupt judge says her voice, as a 69-year-old woman, her freedom of speech is a danger to democracy. Good God, are we not tired of hearing this nonsensical, radical crap about danger to democracy? Because number one, we're not a democracy. And they want to silence conservative voices. They want to silence dissent when they're in control. And then they want to scream about their freedom of speech and democracy and all this nonsense when they're not in control.
Right.
Because it's all a lie. And they're horrific individuals, and they want to fight, and they want to shoot our people. Show me how many conservatives have shot how many politicians. Show me how many conservatives have bombed the Capitol building. Show me how many conservatives have assassinated people over time. Let's just talk about the last 10 years. The majority of these people are these lunatic people. Look, and I want to be really clear. I want to start with this. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care what two consenting adults do behind closed doors. I don't care how a consenting adult walks down the street dressed, as long as it's somewhat decent. Let's cover our privates. Good enough, right? I think that's all understood. I'm not concerned with how they operate. That's between them and God. It's not for me to judge. But what I am concerned with is when we leave the realm of consenting adults and we start messing with the children. All that little boys and little girls should know about each other is that they have cooties. That's all they need to know. We don't need kindergarten drag shows. We don't need this ridiculousness that we have to educate them on trans awareness and whatever else. I never gave a damn if anyone was trans or whatever they want to call themselves, a man dressed as a woman dressed as a man. Hell, I thought Tootsie was a funny movie, right? Don't really care what you do. Don't care. I thought Damon Wayans was funny in Living Color when they dressed up as whatever it was, We all laughed at Wanda and all that nonsense. Nobody hated somebody for it. And we still don't. What we hate is when you try and poison the minds of children. These movie stars that come out and, my child's trans at 3 years old. What the hell are you doing? You're sick and twisted individuals. And we, the people, detest such a sight that you do this. It's child abuse.
It is.
And it should be recognized as such. This normalization of calling pedophiles, that as far as I'm concerned, should all be castrated and hung in the public square. But I think the prisons take care of them pretty well once they get there. But these pedophiles, we want to call them minor attracted persons. We want to minimize the language and say that they have rights and we have to respect them and understand them. I'm all for respecting and understanding them as they're disemboweled in the public square. It's great with me. I don't care. I'm done with that. It's crap. It's happened. I've seen it happen. I'm aware of this situation. My own child was a near victim of a 38-year-old school teacher woman that attempted to do this to my own child while I was dealing with this January 6th nonsense.
Oh my gosh.
These people are distorted, disgusting freaks, and they need to be removed from the face of the planet. There is no rehabilitating these individuals. We, the people, know better. You're not going to convince me otherwise. And they need to be locked up, put in cages, and kept there where they can't hurt children, defenseless people. It used to be that we had laws that we protected children and we protected adults, and there was elder abuse, child abuse, and we cared about these things. Oh, but not when it's a minor attracted person. And then what do we see? We see today, another case that we represent. We talked about Tina Peters. By the way, I told you, we're getting Tina out. Mark my words. She's coming out of that prison. Stay tuned.
How did she sound when you talked to her, Treniss?
Tina sounded good. She's in good spirits. The fundraising's a huge issue. Tina needs significant money to cover these legal fees. She feels terrible for all the people that have helped her that haven't been paid and haven't been paid in a long time. I urge you to join. Look at our site, American Rights Alliance, or go to I believe it's tinapeters.us. Look at her site. We raise money for her. We don't keep the money. We give it all to Tina, as does the fund for Tina. We pay her lawyers, do whatever she tells us to do. Tina's the boss with her money, as it should be, right? Now, you have, in addition to that, as we talked about pedophiles, let's talk about the person that's prosecuting James O'Keefe, right? That person is Jamie Menina. He was a former FBI agent. He was he's now a former Booz Allen Pentagon contractor. Jamie Menina, according to the report that I saw and the video that I witnessed on DC Predator, right? A show that goes on in DC. It's like To Catch a Predator. According to them, the messaging and the video certainly appears to me that Mr. Menina came to visit an underage girl in some home, and Mr. Menina was attempting to have some kind of contact. By what I saw in the video, I can't confirm or deny exactly what was happening, but you watch the video for yourself of Jamie Menina that James O'Keefe has put out that wasn't created by James O'Keefe or his team. It predates James O'Keefe's engagement with Mr. Menina by years, apparently, by the timelines. And so we represent James O'Keefe in the First Amendment case with Jamie Menina, where this lunatic says that O'Keefe has violated the wiretapping laws in D.C. Wiretapping? It's a one-party recording state. So a person in a public restaurant sits down with another person. One person has too much to drink, maybe, or has some drinks, and starts talking, shares things that would be inconsistent with what they should be saying braggadociously about what they can do to stop Trump, et cetera, et cetera. And these are just one of many, right? It's like seeing an ant on the ground. And when you see an ant on the ground like Jamie Menina, you know that there are many, many more underground that you can't see. So when James O'Keefe and others, they didn't just get lucky and get the one guy win the lottery that feels this way. There's hundreds or thousands of them in our government in DC alone. And these people got to be stopped. They got to be removed. They got to be held accountable. So I say this. Donald Trump's already rolled out the National Guard. He's already put 600 JAG lawyers around the country helping with the prosecutions and getting things online for ICE and others, right, to assist the DOJ. It's also very easy to make a jump from that process to military tribunals. And God, do we need military tribunals?
Yeah.
I say this to President Trump. Burn the boats. There's no retreat, right? The conquistador Cortez said when he got ashore and they had to face the indigenous people, they burned the boats because that way there was no retreat. It was either win at all cost or die. I'm in the burn the boats mode, and I hope President Trump recognizes that if he's not in the burn the boats mode, that they will never leave him alone. They will now always go for his family, and they will always come for all of us, conservatives, Christians. This is the last place left, and they want to institutionalize things like Islam. Islam can kiss my ass, and I'll say that. I think I'm thrilled when I see people burn the Quran. That's free speech, and you're welcome to it. And if you want to burn my Bible, burn my Bible. It's your free speech. Go for it. I don't appreciate it. I wish you wouldn't, but go for it. I don't think we should have hate speech laws. I don't think we should have you can't burn this flag, can't burn that. I think free speech and a freedom to protest and demonstrate should be absolute. I don't like it when people burn the American flag. I don't like it when somebody calls somebody a racial slur. I don't like it when somebody is a racist. I don't like it when somebody's a bigot. I don't like any of those things. I have no appreciation for it whatsoever. But I recognize the slippery slope that we get on. If we, the people, support things like, oh, we're not going to have hate speech. What's hate speech? So let me get this straight. I could burn the American flag. I could burn Donald Trump flag. I could burn a Bible or religious symbol or flag. I could do any of those things. But if I were to burn a Jewish flag, suddenly now that's hate speech. That's a problem, right? And I'm not anti-Jew. I believe in our Judeo-Christian semblance and union working together to keep this country for we the people. But Islam, there's no place for you here. Get out.
And
There's no
Treniss,
place for Islam.
where do we go from here when it comes to the media and the tech companies, right? Because they have played an outsized role
Burn
in
them down.
getting us where we are.
Burn them down. Seize them for treason. They need to be seized for treason. It's not the fact that a person in an individual business shouldn't be able to make a decision. It's the fact that they use these as political tools to control the public. They use it as political tools. And what did they do? You used to see on X, right? When conservatives posted something, they just had comment after comment, just bludgeoning conservatives with anti-conservative rhetoric. Where'd all that go? I'll tell you where it went. It's when Elon Musk got rid of the bots. I noticed when he got rid of the bots, I lost about 3,000 followers at the time, 20 something thousand on X and my latest new account at the time. And so if I lost 3,000 followers, but you know what I lost too? All the dissenting crap. So the bots were structured to be liberal. The bots were structured to support these Maoist tech oligarch ideology, the racist, nonsensical idea to make you feel as a conservative like you should shut up because you were in the minority, that you couldn't have a voice because you were really wrong. It was by design. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't dumb luck. They did it like everything else. They did it like Bella Dodd. They did it like Susan Rosenberg. They did it like Bill Ayers. They did it like Hillary Clinton. They did it by like Benny Thompson, right? Who was a leader at the Republic of New Africa. Did we talk about that? Do you guys know who Benny Thompson is?
Tell them.
Benny
We talked
Thompson.
about it off air. Yeah.
Yeah. Benny Thompson. He was a leader. He had a leadership role and openly supported political candidates as late as like 2011 or 2012 from the Republic of New Africa. Republic of New Africa was a violent hate group. Violent hate group. They were openly racist group by their Thompson supported.
And this,
And they
just
had
to be clear, this is not the same Benny Thompson. Is there a Benny Thompson in Congress from Mississippi?
It's the same Benny
It's the
Thompson
same guy.
in Congress.
Okay, I wanted to make
it's
sure.
It's the same guy that was the
Okay.
chair of the J6 Select Committee. Benny Thompson. Now deliver to the American public the facts and events of January 6th. When they played a fraud for the American public on June 9, 2022, and said it was true, when they changed timestamps, moved around the order of events, used things that were said in people's living room that took off Parler that never even happened at the United States Capitol. And that was all run by ABC producer James Goldston. James Goldston was part of creating the lie that was rolled out by Raskin and Schiff and Thompson and Zoe Lofgren and what was her name?
Pelosi's daughter.
Pete Aguilar and Elaine Laura, and there was another one. Those people were the Pelosi appointees for the January 6th committee, lied to the American public. They got away with it under the speech and debate clause, and they rolled that out. That same information.
Liz Cheney, too.
Cheney. That's the big piece of dung that we wanted to talk about. Not only Liz Cheney, but another one. You had, so these people, right? Benny Thompson was that same Benny Thompson. He was open supporter of Republic of New Africa. These people were on the terrorist watch list, the FBI's terrorist watch list as a violent supremacist, black supremacist group that would use guerrilla tactics in the United States. How did all these people get in government that wanted to use guerrilla tactics? but then they called us insurrectionists. The tactics were used in January 6th. Do you remember any guns? How many guns? Where were the rifles? You can't make it make sense when these people would come out with the idea. Listen, here's what they come with. They say, listen, here's what they want to provide to you. They say it was an insurrection. This is the most armed populace on the face of the planet, right? The American citizen is the most armed populace on the face of the planet. I think we own an average of 4.3 guns per person, right? And you're going to tell me the same most armed populace on the face of the planet came to the United States Capitol, the seat of government, of the largest military industrial complex to ever exist. And we came there to do what? We came there so-called insurrection, but we left our rifles at home. We have plastic flagpoles and megaphones. Come on. You can't make that make sense. It's ridiculous. It's an absolute lie. It's a farce. We, the people, are not that stupid. That's why they drew the ire of the American public. That's why January 6th turned, because these people went too far. They did what governments do anytime there's an affront to their unlawful control. Go back in history. I'm talking about people that stamp out the people, won't allow free speech. Look what happened in Nepal here recently, right? They tried to tell the kids they can't use the internet. It didn't go so well for them. It wasn't just the kids. They say Gen Z. You know why the reports say Gen Z? Because they want to motivate our Gen Z, that they think that that's the only group where they hold maybe a majority. They want to motivate this Gen Z to be able to do what they're doing. It wasn't Gen Z. Watch the videos. These people are 30, 40, 50 years old. I see adults. I see no children out here chasing these politicians into the river. I see no children chasing the police into the river. What I see are adult men saying, we've had enough. I don't see Gen Z anywhere. Do you see any Gen Z in those videos? Think about it. It's because you've awakened the spirit of the people, the Nepalese people. They've had enough. They're done. They're done with communism. They're done having dictators. They're done being run. I think, what was it, 1989, you had, where was that? Romania. Remember what happened to that guy in Romania? 1989? They drug him out and hung him, right? They put people on light poles for decades and centuries around the globe.
And the Philippines the Philippines had a big moment a few years back as well, right? They stormed the president's palace.
Cuba, right? I mean, Imelda Marcos, remember all that? I mean, they stormed the palace and they had to rescue him. These things keep happening because people keep stomping on the liberties of free people, or people that maybe they're not free, but they have the mind to be. That's why these things keep happening. And Donald Trump is not a fascist. Donald, they've lied to you. Those little indoctrinated screwballs with the wear, beanies and winter wear out in the middle of summer and cover their face and run around in black bloc. You guys are punks. You've always been punks and you'll always be punks. You probably never grow out of being a punk, even when you leave your mother's basement. I guess you're waiting to inherit the house, I suppose. I don't know. It's a ridiculous notion to think that these people are going to stand up against grown men and take action. And I've called all of you out, everything that operates under the banner of the Democrat ideology or flag today. I've called you all out, and I have a double dose of read between the lines, right? That's where I'm at with all of you, because I'm not your Bible school teacher. God bless the wonderful people like you, Danielle, that'll pray and deliver scripture. I'll pray over your grave while I'm pissing on it.
If you were to think about the people who are starting to be the names that are starting to come up in some of these, what we assume to be a big RICO case, James Comey, John Brennan, Eric Clapper,
Brennan.
Who would be your first target if you were the one doing the roll up?
I would look for the one that's going to roll on others and save their skin. I've said this before. It's time for those that know to come forward. This isn't going away, and it's coming for you. And if you don't think Donald Trump is going to go all out and actually do this, you don't think there's going to be tribunals, because he knows he's not going to get it done in the corrupt courts. They're going to keep showing the public how bad it is so that people go, there's nothing you can do. How many of us are out here screaming tribunals, tribunals, tribunals at this day and age? I am. I'm ready. I want tribunals. Because these corrupt judges, these activists under the robes, you're not going to get rid of them Title III impeachments. We don't have the courage in Congress, because most of these people are probably afraid of the crimes they've committed.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
They don't want to. They're afraid that, like Hillary said, if they come after me, I'll take half of D.C. with me. Okay, fine with me.
Yeah,
As far
please.
as I'm concerned, you guys were all worthless lives that could have been flushed down the toilet long ago. Again, I am not your merciful God. I am not your Sunday school teacher. I am, like I said, I'm going to save this country. I'm going to do it because my children aren't going to grow up in fear of some lunatics that they can't walk down the street because they believe different, or they wear a cross on their neck, or that they have faith, or because they want to wear a MAGA hat, or that they believe in a political ideology, a peaceful political ideology. They're not going to live in fear of you. I'm not going to live in fear of you. And if that's the kind of country you want to take it there, you're going to be sorry. I call out these groups like there's Anubis, right? You know who the largest militia is in the country?
No.
There's the largest militia in the country. It's called Anubis. It is a black militia. They're openly racist. I have dealt with them in the streets. They told me they were going to march over me in Austin. Ford Fisher captured the footage.
Wow.
They told me I was standing there unarmed in a pair of shorts and tennis shoes and a t-shirt. And these heavily armored men carrying ARs and shotguns and sidearms, which I'm fine with. I think you should be able to carry them anywhere. But don't tell me you're going to march over me and I'm going to move, because it's not going to happen. I didn't move when I was unarmed wearing a t-shirt and shorts. What do you think is going to happen if you draw battle lines? I don't want battle lines. I don't want battle lines with blacks. I don't want battle lines with Jews. I don't want battle lines with Hispanics. I don't want battle lines with anyone. And they're going to chastise me. They'll cut this up. They'll say it's racist and I'm racist and you're a racist and we're white supremacists just for having the conversation. That's what they'll do. But my children are not going to live under Islamic rule. They're not going to live under Democrat communist rule. They're not going to live as Maoist or Marxist. Not if I have anything to say about it. So again, you got to kill me to shut me up. You want to start killing us to shut us up? Sooner or later, you're going to cross the wrong hombres, and you're going to turn it into a conflict, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So recognize that if I can't have a conversation and say what I want, then neither can you. And that draws into the battle line. And then eventually you're going to find out just how big of the lesser force that you actually are.
Yeah. Well, Treniss, I'm kind of staggered that we're here in some ways with
We
what
shouldn't
we're
be
seeing.
having this conversation in the United States.
We shouldn't be having this conversation, but I think it's so important to have the conversation and recognize that when we have been saying for the last 5+ years that we are at war, spiritual war, it is a spiritual war, I believe, that we really mean it. And people really do have to stand up and find their place. And it's absolutely existential.
Take our peaceful position as weakness. Peaceful position we're in the peaceful position because it's the right thing to do. But we're also here because we have the strength to change it anytime we want. We don't want to. We want to do this a nice way. We want you to live. You're welcome to your ideology, but don't think you're going to use violence to take me out of mine.
Yeah. Well, promise me this. You'll come back and give us some updates on those big cases your team is working on. We appreciate you so much. I know you have fought for a lot of people, and it looks like the fight is just in some ways getting started.
Dan Wilson is going to be free from Dabney Friedrich's reign of terror. Tina Peters is going to be free from Colorado's reign of terror. People like Jenna Griswold, Phil Weiser, others, the Dabney Friedrichs, you're going to be held accountable by our system, by our courts, whether it is in a judicial court as we know it, as a normal process, or if it's tribunals. Either way, I promise you, Donald Trump already made up his mind to burn the boats.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Just a note for our listeners, we will be back with Colonel Conrad Reynolds to talk about election security, the future of election integrity on Tuesday, 10 a.m., and Chris should be back with us then. So thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great one.
Hey, Danielle Walker here. I'd love for you to check out my online boutique, Luxe Lion. My mission for Luxe Lion is to showcase innovative African designers and sustainable, mission-driven brands. To do that, I bring you stunningly beautiful handcrafted jewelry and accessories from some of my absolute favorite places on earth. Small batch wholesale for storefronts is also available. Join me in celebrating African artistry and shop now at luxelion.us. Use promo code FREEDOM for an additional 10% off your purchase.
Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit LACAG.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.